My name is Roland. Down the hall in Studio B, where live broadcasts are made possible by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Another guy sitting in front of me has played guitar some with Missy Raines over the years. Welcome, Claire Lynch, along with Jim Hurst. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good to be here again.
When's the last time you guys rolled through here?
The 1900s, I think.
I think the last time I was here with you was maybe '08.
Yeah, 2008, I guess, yeah.
I was
It's been
here
a long time.
a couple of years before that. I did an in-studio with Martin for an album I had out then about that same time as a Box of Chocolates in '07.
Yeah, good record. All right, well, it's good to have you all back again. Claire Lynch has a show coming up tomorrow night at Isis Music Hall up in Asheville, and then a couple more shows this weekend in Greensboro at that North Carolina Folk Festival, Saturday and Sunday. So busy. Good to be back in the Carolinas.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, there's a lot of trees around here.
I guess that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Trees and
beautiful.
construction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst are playing live today. Claire, what's your first song for us?
This is a song that I wrote years ago called Wednesday's Child. It's a sort of a recall of my sordid past. Whammy bar.
Oh, that sounds great. Claire
Thanks.
Lynch, Wednesday's Child. It's a
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. It was inspired by a young boy that lived in our neighborhood when I was raising my kids in Hazel Green, Alabama. We had a great big yard. It was big, flat, it was farmland. And they used to come over and play ball in the front yard with my son. And one day my little daughter, she's much younger, about 7 years younger, she's out there running the bases with the boys. And I had this horrible thought, what if she grows up and starts dating one of those bad boys? So I wrote this song about it.
So, did she?
No, she didn't. She did well. She's not married at all.
So Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst are playing live with us today. You've got a couple shows coming up. We mentioned Isis Music Hall tomorrow. That's with a band, though, like big bluegrass band kind of thing.
Yeah, we have the Claire Lynch Band, and we play some bluegrass. Sure do. Jim gets the banjo out.
So
Run, Forrest.
Is Jim on that tour? I couldn't figure out.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's Jim and Emma McDowell, and she's from Canton, North Carolina, and a guy from Pittsburgh named Mike Geisbacher on the bass. He's a fine young man. He's been picking with Jim in the Jim Hurst trio, and Jim introduced him to me. So we share players now too.
There you go.
It's all good.
So what's new in the music world of Claire Lynch these days?
Oh, well, I moved to Canada, so that's pretty new. I immigrated there in October, so almost a year now. And kind of getting to know the music scene there. It's pretty cool. Big city, Toronto, huge. And there's still a pretty healthy folk scene there, during the 60s, the big folk revival. New York and Toronto were very closely related in that, they both had big resurgence of folk music. And up there, you have picking parties down here, right? In the bluegrass circles anyway, you sit down and you pick with each other and do standards. And up there, it's more like song circles, they call them. So I've been invited to a bunch of them where you sit down at a party, and you go around and share a song. And it's a lot about writing and singing, which is up my alley. It's cool.
Yeah, to me, you've always been a bluegrass performer, but I always thought you were like a folk singer as much as anything.
Really? I am. I'm a chick singer that, whose voice blends well with bluegrass instruments. And just happen to write songs, too, a little bit.
Is that cool, like in Toronto, if you go, IBMA, bluegrass, do they like that, or they go, what's that?
Yeah, they think I'm a star up there.
You are.
They kind of laud that. There's a healthy bluegrass scene in the city. Yeah. There's a couple clubs where they play it weekly, and the Slow Can Ramblers. Have you ever had them around?
I was going to mention them because they've been here, and we love those guys.
Oh yeah, they're really great. They're a very strong band. And the Foggy Hogtown Boys. They're not together anymore, but they toured the U.S. a lot too, and they're all from Toronto.
So do you pick some with the Slow Can Ramblers? You play some with those guys?
Let's see, we did a workshop with them recently. We were in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and the folk festivals in Canada. Bear Creek, yeah. They have this sort of tradition they call them workshops. So they put 3 or 4 acts on one stage, and you go around like a writers in the round kind of thing, except it's bands in the round. But you're also welcome to, walk up there and sing harmony with them, or Jim would take solos on the guitar. It's a lot of fun. So we did that with the Slow Cans.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining to the audience, too.
I bet.
Because all these artists, they get to do their own set for the weekend. We did that at the Edmonton Folk Festival, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It's something that's unique up there, I think.
Yeah.
At least in my experience, that's the only place I've ever seen. And it can be maddening getting getting all the stage and all the gear. And the techs, engineers are going crazy trying to get it done. But it's amazing that they can get it done and do it so well. Mm-hmm. And then it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun.
It's fun. It's like jamming, in front of an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, that just seems like that would be your forte. I mean, you
know
play with
what
so many people.
I enjoyed, because one of the things I love about playing with Claire is her variety of material. A variety of material. She does everything from traditional things over to singer-songwriter to kind of jazzy things and stuff in between. And so as a musician that likes to do that kind of thing, and playing with her has been a really fertile soil for me to develop more of my own thing like that. And so it's been a lot of fun. So the one thing that I do, though, is I sit back. I try not to insert myself too forceful for those things up there. For one, I'm from the States, and I don't want to step my foot in the middle of something that maybe it's not yet my turn. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like jam etiquette down here. You got to kind of ease in. You don't just start out in the middle of the circle. You work your way in. Mm-hmm. But what they do is they invite you in. And they'll say, hey, they'll look at you, take a solo, and I'm all over that. It's fun. It's fun to just kind of get in there and pick a little bit.
We got to jam with Harry Manx on that same stage. I don't know if you know his music.
He's a talented man
player.
right there.
So life is good up there in Canada.
Yeah, it's good. We had one heck of a winter.
Well, I bet that.
I spent a lot of it down here, touring, but fortunately. But I think we had for 2 months, about 8 inches of ice in the backyard. It was a tough winter. They say it's going to be that way again, but I grew up in New York, so I like playing in the snow. What can I say?
New York and Alabama, right?
Yes.
And then to Canada.
New York and Alabama.
Some kind of weird thing going on.
It's very weird. It's really weird.
Well, it sounds great. Again, today we've got Claire Lynch, and Jim Hurst is playing along with her. They've got a show tomorrow night, Isis Music Hall in Asheville, and again in Greensboro this weekend, the North Carolina Folk Festival. So 2 days you guys are playing there, Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. Nice. How about another song?
Yeah. Speaking of jazzy, you want to do that One Mistake at a Time?
Sure.
I wrote this with John Weisberger.
Who's a recent import to Asheville.
Oh, yeah?
He just moved to Asheville. Yeah.
From Nashville to Asheville?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Sounds like a good move. All right. I guess I start this one, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Live music today. WCW Live from Studio B. And Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst.
And Jim Hurst, yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'll just go ahead and say this. I could listen to Jim Hurst play that guitar all day long. It's gorgeous.
That's nice, man.
But did you, like Claire, I sort of think of you as around here, we think you're a bluegrass guy, but of course you're way, way, way more. What did you start with? What was your...
Started with confusion. I went from there to energy to try to learn. My dad and my uncle, they did a lot of duet stuff. My dad's younger brother. He had 2 brothers. The youngest one didn't play. So they did a lot of Johnny and Jack and Blue Sky Boys and Lubin Brothers and, Carter Family kind of things. They would do, any kind of thing that Dad could play, guitar and mandolin. My uncle played mandolin. My dad did too. And so that was what I started with in the living room. Mm-hmm. And then my older brother, my 2 older sisters sang. My brother played guitar. He played at college. He played on board ship in the Navy, and then he'd come home and he'd show me stuff, and I'd eat it up like, a horse eating oats or something. And I just loved all that stuff. And so as I got older and older and older, and my old brother would bring, CDs or records at the time, LPs from Tony Mottola and Jose Feliciano and Merle Travis and Chet Atkins, and he finally brought home a thing. And of course, we had, all kinds of country and bluegrass, so Bill Monroe, Flatt and Scruggs, Stanley Brothers, and Doc Watson was one of the first ones I heard to play flat picking guitar. And I remember when the album where he played with Flatt and Scruggs at Carnegie Hall, that was like a marriage of guitar playing and solos with bluegrass, which you didn't hear too much. George Shuffler, you guys know who he is. He's the king of cross picking, and he's one of the first people to bring solo guitar into bluegrass. So with all that and going into different things, and Jerry Reed was a guy that made me change my direction. But any kind of music I love, except for there's certain things I don't like, but anything that has melody and groove and really great rhythm, lyrics with Claire and other people, it's just music just feeds who I am. Other than what God gives me, music gives me the rest, and then my family, of course.
Why don't you play one, Jim?
What do you want me to do?
Oh, I don't know. Do an instrumental since you.
Let's see. WNCW was one of the first ones to play my first CD, Open Window, and because of Russ Jordan back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I get to see him every so often, and I hope you're listening, Russ, but I always will remember the kindness that you've shown here at this station. I appreciate you. So I'll do a little of this one. I don't want to take up too much time, but I wrote this one in the honor of Jerry Reed. He grew up in the swamps, spent a lot of time in the swamps. He's actually from Atlanta. And so he had this funky thing that I can't do, but I like to try to mimic it sometimes. This is Swamp Reed for Russ.
Here's that invisible whammy bar again.
It's the air whammy bar, which no one can see, but that sounds great, Jim Hurst.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On a side note, I taught at Swannanoa 3 or 4 years ago, and I taught fingerstyle guitar and one class of bluegrass guitar. And one of the things that I got some feedback from Al Petaway, who was at that time was an important part of the Swannanoa gathering. He said he got some people wanting to know how to play Swamp Reed. So I had a friend of mine in Georgia to help me tab the thing out, because I don't do tablature. I don't read it. I don't write it. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. And so I did it. And when I go into class, there's this young kid sitting in there, and he's playing Swamp Reed pretty well. And I'm thinking, okay, I got my work cut out for me this week.
Hate when the student's doing it better than you, huh?
Yeah.
Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst, again, the show tomorrow night at ISIS Music Hall in Asheville. What time is that? Do you have any idea?
8:30.
8:30.
Yeah.
And a couple shows up in Greensboro this weekend at the North Carolina
the
Folk
restaurant
Festival.
opens at 6 if you want to. They have really great food.
Yeah.
Wonderful food.
Details at the website, I'm sure. So, Claire, your turn. You do a guitar solo now.
So low you can't hear it.
Get another song for us?
Let's do Black Flowers, because that's my most recent project, is North by South. And it's a collection of tunes written by Canadians. Go figure. And this one is from Lynn Miles, and she grew up in Quebec. Her dad and some of her uncles worked in asbestos mines. And she got invited to do that big radio show in Charleston, West Virginia. What's that called?
Mountain Stage.
Mountain Stage. And she was driving through West Virginia, and she came up upon a coal mining community, and it just she pulled over the side of the road, started writing this song. It's called Black Flowers.
All right, it's WNCW Black Flowers, the name of the song there from Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst. Yeah. Lynn Miles, is that who you said?
Lynn Miles, yeah.
Yeah,
She's a very lauded
Right.
folk singer-songwriter, and she's won Juno's
Right.
awards.
So Claire, I wonder, when you got started, it was early 80s maybe, and there weren't many women out there in the music business, especially in bluegrass. And I just wondered, your thoughts on how women's role within maybe the music industry changed, how you feel about yourself. Are you a role model? Are you a trailblazer for women? Do you feel that?
Well, I feel pretty good about myself as a role model, but I'm not ashamed of it anyway. But there were some women who were in it, but usually they were, were in the band with a chaperone, like a husband or something. And I was too, actually. I was married to Larry Lynch, and we had the front porch string band for a lot of years. So But I just think womankind in general is finding independence. And, bluegrass was a little late to the game compared to other genres. But as a general rule, I think that women are finally moving away from oppression and into some freedom. And it's amazing to watch.
Yeah. Where do you think the music, from your vantage point, the music industry, is it ahead of the curve or behind the curve or just about?
What, bluegrass?
Yeah.
Well, I always thought it was behind, as far as social progress. I think that it's a fabulous community of people. It's very familial. All ages are included. We have standards that we play, like jazz, and we gather together and play with each other and eat with each other, and I just think it's a wonderful community to be in.
Yeah, well said. Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst. I don't know, do you have time for one more song before you hit the road?
Sure.
Think?
Okay.
If you have one ready.
What to do, darling?
Oh, well. We should do,
Going
yeah. Can you do that? Do you have to retune for that?
I have to tune my voice.
Uh-oh. You
Good
think
luck
you
with
do. Yeah.
I love doing this duet with Claire, because one of my favorite things to hear is her by herself. And one of her songs that we recorded together, I think it was
Silver and Gold.
Silver and Gold album, I think. It was Death Angel, and it's a song that it was the first time that Missy and Michael McLean and myself heard it was at a festival somewhere in South Georgia or South Alabama somewhere. And she said, "Hey, I got a song I want to think about for this new album. I want you guys to hear." So we went out there and heard her and her guitar on a cassette tape in the van stereo system, and all three of us just sit there just dumbfounded. How beautiful. She wrote the song based on, a friend of hers' son was passing, and it was just an amazing thing. And just that's one of my favorite things to do, is to hear her just by herself. So getting to sit here and pick with her is a real treat. So.
No bass player, no fiddle player.
I know, I like that too, but it's a little more honest like this, I think.
Yeah, I'm feeling brutally honest right now. Yeah.
That's a good way to end the session. Sounds great.
I'm going out.
That's Claire Lynch and Jim Hurst. They are playing tomorrow night at ISIS Music Hall in Asheville. They're in Greensboro this weekend at the North Carolina Folk Festival. Sounds great, y'all. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Good to
you
be
for
here with
having
y'all.
us.
Yeah,
It's
come
an
again.
honor.
And next time it's got to be less than 12 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope.
All right, thanks again, y'all. Live sessions on WCW are made possible by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, and we